Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video we're going to be talking about instant manifestation and one of the biggest, most powerful techniques that's also very easy to trigger and attain instant manifestation. Manifestation essentially when we desire something and we're able to take that idea and that vision and manifest it into physical reality. And there is a couple different things that can hinder us in manifestation, and the technique that I'm going to be giving to you today is something that you can use to break out of those limitations without even needing to focus on breaking out of those limitations. The main thing that limits us from manifesting our desires is something called limiting beliefs. And you may have heard of this before, especially if you've been into manifestation. And a limiting belief is essentially something that is holding you back from the ability to attain your desires. And a lot of the times our limiting beliefs are subconscious and we're not even aware of them. So for example, we may have a limiting belief about money being hard to attain. And our beliefs come into our mind through our experiences or different ideas that we were raised with. So if our parents always had a hard time making money and we've had certain experiences with trying to make certain amounts of money and we found it very difficult and hard, that experience has maybe led us to the idea that money is very hard to attain, and that may be something that's ingrained to us subconsciously. But if we have a certain belief, such as money is hard to attain, if we have that belief, we are going to notice that our thoughts and our ideas and our actions are then equal to that. If you have a belief that money is hard to attain, you're going to think thoughts that are in alignment with that belief, whether you're conscious of it or not. It's going to then give you certain ideas, and these ideas are going to have a limitation on them. You can imagine a limiting belief as almost like a tabletop, and you're on the bottom of it. So anytime you have a limiting belief, it's going to be very hard for you to then perceive or even think of concepts, ideas, or even actions that are above that limitation. So if your desire is, I want to make $10,000 a month, but we find it currently in our current reality that it's hard to even make $2,000 a month. If we currently have that reality and we believe that money is very hard to attain, we're going to think thoughts like, money is very difficult, money is very difficult. When we're in that mindset, the ideas that we get, our ideas stem from the thoughts that we think. That's where we get ideas, when we have a train of thoughts that then bring us to an entire idea. When we get ideas, ideas are what make us either want to take action or not. We may get an idea that's like, ooh, I want to open up a business. But then if we have a limiting belief that says opening up a business is really hard, this might be something that's very difficult, a lot of people fail at it. If we have that limiting belief subconsciously, we may get an idea, but then we won't take action on it. Or we have certain, thoughts and beliefs that make it difficult for us to even perceive of ideas about certain things. So you can see how limiting beliefs can actually have like a whole barrier, and almost like they're just sort of like a barrier on your life basically. And they stop you. It's almost like a brick wall that stops you from achieving what you really want to achieve. And beliefs are not actual factual reality, but a lot of the times we feel like they are, because either we've had experiences that have solidified this idea or this limiting belief that have caused us to feel like certain things are hard to attain. So if we've had a lot of bad experiences in love before, we may believe that love is very hard to attain. Or we may believe that love it's very hard to find somebody that you're actually compatible with. We may have a limiting belief that says, I'll never find the perfect, beautiful love in my life. We may have a limiting belief that's equal to that, and it may be so solidified through our past experiences or through other people, because even the people in your life, your friends and your family and your partners, can influence the beliefs that you have as well, because they may be talking about their experiences, you may be observing other things that they've experienced, and it may either solidify beliefs that you have or it'll break them apart. So one beautiful thing that we can do that can help us get to our manifestations is to break through limiting beliefs. But a lot of the times, an area where I notice a lot of people struggle with this is when we don't even realize what our limiting beliefs are. It can be hard to even recognize what our limiting beliefs are because sometimes they're very subconscious. We may not even realize that we have that belief. And some of you may even be watching this being like, but I know that this is true. I know that it's hard to make money. Money only comes from when you're already rich. Money, you don't just become rich. It's hard to become rich. It's hard to, find love, especially with the way that I was raised. We have all these beliefs and we believe them to be our actual truth. And so it can be very hard to break free of them. But one way that you can do this is to start to question your beliefs. So if you believe that money and richness and success can only come when you're born into it, start to look at all the stories of the people who've attained it regardless of their childhood. There's been a lot of people who've been brought up in very poor circumstances that have made it anyway. And when we can start to look at other stories that make us re-question our beliefs, we can start to restructure them, especially if we are aware of them. But sometimes we're not even aware of them. And I'm going to give you a tool about, what you can do in order to trigger instant manifestation and break through limiting beliefs that you may not even realize that you had. And this is a very subconscious process that you may not even be realizing what it's doing, but it's a very powerful method. So there's multiple different approaches that you can take towards limiting beliefs. So if you're aware that you have certain ones, and if you believe that money is very hard to attain, you can begin to question that. So that could be step number one if you are aware of these limiting beliefs. Begin to question those limiting beliefs. Are there examples of people who have found the love of their life even when love was difficult? Have there been examples of people who have come from absolute poverty and have made successful businesses for themselves? Yes, of course there are. Has there been people that did not believe that they are worthy or have struggled with illnesses or mental limitations and have broken through and healed themselves regardless? Yes, of course there's examples of that. So if we begin to question our beliefs and break them down, we can begin to free ourselves of these limiting beliefs, because whenever we have a limiting belief, it will literally stop you from thinking thoughts that are in alignment to what you truly want. It will hinder you and stop you from perceiving of ideas that are in alignment with what you truly want. And it'll stop you and hinder you from taking action on ideas or thoughts that are in alignment with what you want. And that's what stops us from achieving the realities that we really desire, is these limiting beliefs. Because whenever we have a limiting belief, again, it stops us from thinking thoughts or ideas or taking actions that would bring us to the success that we're really desiring. And so the process that I want to bring up to you today is a process that can trigger instant manifestation, because it helps you subconsciously break out of these limiting beliefs. And I know some of you may be thinking like, okay, get to the point already, but all of this information is very important so that you understand what's happening here. So basically what this process is imagining as if something has just happened for you. And I know that this is something that a lot of us struggle with, because we're looking at our current reality and we don't see the results of that yet. So something that you can do is imagine that, so if you're wanting to manifest a brand new house and you're currently living in your old house, what you can do is imagine that you just got accepted for your dream house. You're still living in your current house. That's normal. That's part of the process. But you can imagine that you just got accepted. And you don't have to think about how this happened. You don't have to plan all those things out in your head. Just focus on the feeling of what would it feel like right now if I just got an email of the papers that I need to sign because I just bought the house and I got approved for it and I'm gonna get it now and I just need to sign the papers and it's so exciting, and then I'm gonna get the keys tomorrow and then all blah, blah, blah. Imagine what would this feel like if that happened for you right now? What would it feel like if all of a sudden, for example, you may be working at a current 9-to-5 job and maybe you wanna own your own business or something like that. Imagine what it would feel like if you're still working that 9-to-5 job and you're there right now, but all of a sudden you're looking at your phone and you're realizing your business is booming and you can quit your job whenever you want and go full time into your side business. What would that feel like when you're at work and you're having this realization of like, I think I can go full-time on my business now. It has been doing so well for like the past 6 months. I feel like I can comfortably, quit my current job and just go full-time into that because it's, bringing in all the money that I need, all the resource, and it's doing above and beyond my expectations. What would that feel like in this present moment? So, you're still living your current reality. You're not trying to visualize something else, although if you are good at visualizing something else, you can also do that. So if you're really good at visualizing what your life would be like if it was completely different, you can do that. But if you have a hard time doing that, imagine you're still in your current reality, but you just got what you're trying to manifest. So if you're trying to manifest your soulmate, imagine that all of a sudden you just met somebody that you are wildly crazy about and that they're wildly crazy about you too, and that they just asked you on a date, and in your heart and your soul you're like, I know that this is the one. Oh my gosh, what does that feel like? And you can do this for any manifestation that you have. If you're wanting to manifest more confidence or something like that, imagine the feeling that you just had the experience of a lifetime that made you feel more confident. And you can imagine like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden, blah, blah, blah gave me the craziest compliment and I'm feeling like I am higher than ever. I feel more confident than ever. You can imagine this for any scenario in your current moment, but it can be very powerful to imagine it happening in your current reality. And another way that you can really enhance this feeling is by doing it through meditation even really soaking in that feeling, because it's the feeling that's going to break you out of these limiting beliefs. And the reason for that is because your brain and your mind does not know the difference. Like your actual brain and your actual neurons, the way that we build neurons, does not know the difference between your imagination and your physical, real reality. Your brain does not know the difference between those two. So if you're imagining something to where you are fully feeling it, to where you are fully feeling it, your brain is going to think that that's actually happening. And when your brain is thinking that that's actually happening, all of these old subconscious beliefs that were once limiting you are now breaking down. And the reason why they're breaking down is because if we once had a limiting belief that money was hard to attain, but now we're starting to imagine the reality that we are making tons of money and all of a sudden it's working out for us right now and we have the job of our dreams. If that's what we're imagining, our mind is now soaking in that reality, and it is now contradicting any old beliefs that you've had that have been holding you back. So the more that you can soak in this feeling and this energy, the more that you are going to begin to break any of those barriers that have been holding you and limiting you, because those thresholds have been so solidified in your life in this current moment, which is why you're not experiencing the reality that you truly desire and want to. But when we put ourselves in that other position, our mind thinks that we're actually experiencing that. And again, that is when you break through your limiting beliefs and you start to become conscious in the higher reality, in your dream reality, because that is now the energy of where your conscious mind is now going. Your conscious mind is able to expand and perceive of more in that moment, and even your subconscious mind, your entire being is able to up level and perceive of more. And that is going to be when you start to think thoughts now that are in alignment with your desired life, with your desires, with your dream reality. Your thoughts are now going to begin to shift and change, and you're going to start thinking new thoughts. Those new thoughts are going to now be in alignment with what you really want, and it's going to then cause a chain of new thoughts, which then, link to new ideas. And then these new ideas won't be limited by a belief that says you cannot do it. Therefore, you're more likely to then take action on these ideas that you are getting, and you're more likely going to feel a lot more confident and sure of yourself, which makes you actually physically take that action, and you're going to feel good about taking that action, which means you're going to be moving forward faster than ever, which means your manifestations are going to begin happening in your life faster than ever, because you've broken the barrier that's been stopping you. You've broken through the illusions of these obstacles that have been in your way. And as you break out of those, manifestation happens again faster than ever. This is how you begin to trigger instant manifestation. And I've seen this work for people so fast. I've seen people manifest crazy things within 24 hours of doing this. I've seen people, sometimes it takes people a week, sometimes it takes people a month, sometimes it takes people 10 minutes. It really just depends. The more that you can, again, focus on this new energy, and the more that you can then, live in that energy as long as possible, it is going to shift your entire mindset. It is going to make you think and perceive of ideas that are completely different than what you would have thought or acted on prior. It's going to be completely different. It's in an entirely new realm. So this is how you trigger instant manifestation. And another point that I really want to bring up in this video is when you start to reach certain obstacles, because this method does not, guarantee that you're not going to reach obstacles. It might be smooth sailing from there, but we also could reach certain obstacles in our life. Obstacles are not avoidable, and we shouldn't perceive them as failure. A lot of the times, another reason why we don't reach our desires is because we reach an obstacle and we assume that that is resistance and that we can't go beyond anymore. And so when we reach a certain obstacle in our life, maybe we're trying to get our dream job and we get turned down for the company that we applied for, and we're like, we can either take that moment, that's one of those pivotal moments in our life. You can go two different directions in those pivotal moments, and that decides the trajectory of your entire life. We have these pivotal moments constantly where we could either go in the direction of our dream life or we retreat back. Okay, so in that moment where you either reach a state of maybe rejection or something else along your path, if you perceive that moment as, oh, I failed, that means I can't do it, I didn't manifest it right, it means it's not meant for me. If we attach that meaning to it, we're going to retreat. And when we retreat, we go backwards. We go back into our old life. And this is something where it's going to be really important to remember that your dreams, you attaining your dreams and desires, does not mean that there's not going to be obstacles in the way. It doesn't mean that everything's going to be smooth sailing. There's always things that we need to learn. If we can look at our challenges and obstacles as an area of learning, so maybe we got rejected from the company of our dreams, and maybe we could take action on that. We could be like, hey, is there any reason as to why I got rejected? And maybe they're going to respond to you and be like, oh, well, we noticed that blah, blah, blah was in your application, and we're really looking for somebody that has this and this and this. And, maybe they can give points to you, which you can then take on and be like, oh, they're looking for someone like this. I need to then improve in these areas, and then of course I can get my job. So you can take challenges and obstacles as opportunities to learn and grow. Or maybe that company will simply say, like, we had tons of applicants, we had to pick and choose, and unfortunately we chose this person, but your application looked amazing, it looked great. And you could take that as encouragement of like, wow, I really have what it takes, but maybe I need to try again when they have another opening, or maybe I need to go to maybe a different company and try my luck there. We can still push for our desires. We can still get over certain challenges and obstacles. If we look at a challenge or obstacle as a failure, and if we get scared or we retreat, so for example, for opening up a business and we reach a certain challenge, we can either put ourselves into a shell and be like, oh, I need to be super cautious, which it's good to have caution. Caution is not a bad thing. But if we take caution and we allow it to put ourselves in a limiting shell to where we are now scared to move forward, or we are limiting ourselves in many ways, this is going to be when that challenge overtakes us. Instead, we can look at challenge, we can look at obstacles in our life as room to grow, and we can face them and become greater from them. But it's really up to us how we're going to take that perspective. This is a turning point in your life. We all have so many of these turning points. Right now, as you're watching this video, you can either take this as an opportunity to be like, okay, I'm going to expand out, I'm going to get to my dreams, or we could take this video and be like, that all sounds really scary, I'm going to retreat backwards. We could all take all these different turning points and apply them differently to our life and decide what we want to do with them. And something that I've really learned, and this wisdom actually came out in a weird way. This wisdom came from playing chess, actually. And I used to play chess a lot as a kid, never professionally or anything like that. But one of the things that I was taught in chess that actually made me win most of the games that I've ever played with any of my friends or my family or anything was something that my dad taught me. Because whenever I was playing chess and my opponent started making moves that were really scary to me, and I was like, oh my God, I might lose this game. They just like, they're about to like take my queen, and oh my God, like this is happening and whatnot. You know, I would go into defense mode. But in chess, if you go into defense mode and you stay in defense mode, your likelihood of losing that game skyrockets. It is very high that it's a high chance that you're going to lose that game. But instead, if you can come up with a strategy, and there may be certain points in life or within chess that we need to use strategy and have a combination of retreating, but then also taking action and opposing those challenges and being the opponent and, you know, kind of taking action towards winning the game. We need to take action towards winning the game, because I don't know a single chess player who has won a chess match playing the entire game in defense mode or protection mode. There needs to be a balance. A lot of the times you can tell which player is going to win, because any player that's playing mostly defense mode is more likely going to lose that game. The player that's most likely taking a nice balance of risks and going out there and trying to, you know, really cause some friction within the game, their likelihood of winning, as long as, again, they're playing it smart and looking at their plan of action and stuff, their likelihood of winning is much higher than the one who's playing in defense mode. And this same wisdom can be applied to our life. And again, we do need to have a good balance. There is times for being in defense and protection mode. There is times within life for that, just as within a chess game. But then there's also times where we must have a nice balance and still begin to move forward, still begin to take action, still begin to overcome, face fears, face obstacles, and overcome them. Because obstacles are inevitable. Challenges arising, opposition arising in our life is inevitable. But if we can learn how to have that nice balance of still facing our fears, facing those obstacles with the internal knowing that I'm going to learn how to overcome this, I'm going to learn from this. If you approach things with that perspective, your likelihood of overcoming that challenge and getting to your desire is way more likely. Your desire of winning the game increases by so much. So again, we're all going to face obstacles in our life. We're all going to face opposition and challenge. We're all going to have to overcome fears. Those who are successful, though, are the ones that reach an obstacle. When they get to an obstacle, they evaluate that obstacle, they look at it, they're not scared to look at it, they don't go immediately into defense mode, they look at it for what it is, they don't retreat their entire life, you know? Of course, there is times and places for maybe a little bit of a retreat, but at the same time, if we only ever retreat, we only ever move backwards. If we only ever remain in protection mode, we do not advance further, we do not grow, we do not reach our desires, we stay stagnant. And so if you're wanting to get to your desires, it needs to have a beautiful balance of, you know, having enough courage, but also having enough caution. Caution and courage go hand in hand. You know, so we need to have enough courage to overcome obstacles, but we can't be too like naive and just run into obstacles, because we can also kind of lead ourselves to situations that we don't want when we're just being too courageous and we're just overcoming everything and moving too fast. We need to have that nice balance. So just as when you're playing a chess game, chess has actually a lot of wisdom within it that I've like taken and used in my own life. Because in order to win a chess game, you do need to have that balance, but you need to have more of the action taking in order to increase your likelihood of winning. So look at your strategy in life. Look at anytime you reach a challenge or obstacle. I know I'm kind of running on here, but anytime you reach a challenge or obstacle, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this in order to overcome it, in order to overtake that obstacle instead of an obstacle overtaking you, which is very easy to do. You know, sometimes we can just allow an obstacle to overtake us, but instead when we look at an obstacle and we're like, I'm going to face this, I'm going to find a way over this, and I'm determined to find a way over this obstacle. If you face things with that perspective, your likelihood of overcoming and reaching your success is so high. I'm a personal believer that there is always a way, even if nobody's done something like this before, even if, you know, we haven't discovered something, we are still, as a world and as a civilization, we're discovering things all the time when it comes to, you know, medical things, when it comes to science, when it comes to beliefs when it comes to like anything in life, when it comes to building something, when it comes to creating something, when it comes to achieving something. As a society, we are still breaking limiting barriers. If you look at our world 2,000 years ago, the world that we have now would almost be inconceivable. The things that we can now do with medicine, the things that we can now do with construction, the things that we can now do with technology, that would have been unheard of back then, okay? So something to keep in mind is that even if something that you're stuck in right now seems impossible, it is never impossible. I'm a firm believer that there's always a way, and that humans are constantly discovering new ways to get to certain goals. So getting to the moon could have seemed impossible. Going to space, setting up satellites, doing all sorts of different things, having an iPhone where you touch the screen, having me being able to record this video for you to watch maybe halfway across the world, wherever you exist, wherever you are at any time. Maybe this is a year from now that you're watching this. Maybe this is immediately as I post this. You know, the fact that we have this technology would have never been possible if we didn't believe that there could be a way. So if you're wanting to get to your desires, believe and know that there can be a way for you, and you are going to be more likely to find that way than ever. And you even just, again, to bring this back to my whole point of instant manifestation, if you can begin to picture yourself and put yourself at that end result and imagine it already happening in your life, imagine that event already taking place in your life. When you imagine that, your brain does not know the difference between imagination and reality. It's going to think it's actually happening right now. The more that you can soak in that feeling, your brain is actually imagining that scenario is actually physically happening. And you are creating new subconscious beliefs of that being possible for you. You are disproving and breaking these old beliefs that you've had that were limiting you. A belief is like a tabletop, and this is a famous Tony Robbins kind of example that I recently sort of discovered. The way that he explains beliefs, you can imagine it like a tabletop, and the legs on that table, maybe it was Tony Robbins that said this, or maybe it was somebody else, but I read it in a Tony Robbins book. He mentions it in there. And the legs of that table are your experiences or other ideas that have solidified this belief for you. The more that you can begin breaking those down, the more that tabletop will come crashing down, and you'll be able to break through to a new higher dimension of thinking, a higher dimension of possibility for yourself, is breaking out of those limiting beliefs. And beliefs can take on all forms. We can believe that they're so real, especially when we have a lot of legs holding up that table. We can believe it as if a belief is factual reality. But our beliefs are so different across different humans because we've had different experiences. And the fact that we have different beliefs proves and shows the fact that a belief is just a belief. It is not factual reality, because there's people with different experiences that have different experiences that have experienced wildly different things. So if we can learn how to break out of those limiting beliefs, which a very easy way of doing that is to imagine the end result already happening for you, you're going to begin breaking down that structure and that limiting belief that has been limiting you in your life. So I know that this has been a long video. I know that I kind of keep going on here, but I really want to just ingrain this within your mind. So if you're still here, you're still with me, then thank you so much for watching this. And I really appreciate you being here. I hope this information helped you in some way. I hope it will help you transform your life. And I'm sending you all of my love. And thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you in my next video.